testimony. My question is looking at preemptive prosecution, and this is just an observation that I've made, and I would be interested in hearing your thoughts. It seems that, you look at Yasser Araf's case, or Hamid Hayat, the Lodi case, where previously a lot of the sting operations and these cases of enticement/entrapment were really relied on material support, trying to get them to do or fund or do something illegal, but not necessarily something violent. But now when you look at a lot of the recent sting operations, they have become a lot more exaggerated, a lot more violent. And I'm thinking of, for example, Antonio Martinez, the guy in Baltimore. I'm thinking of Muhammad Usman Muhammad, the Somali in Oregon, the Newburgh 4, for example, the case here, the metro station, where you have, these really, really exaggerated, elaborate sting operations. And my question to you is, do you feel like there is a trend, a shift, where maybe the material support allegations are just not sufficient to maintain this rhetoric of really conflating Islam/Muslims with terrorism, or do you think it's something different?
I agree with you. I think there has been a shift away from perhaps the classic ideological sort of thought crime, but it may be simply, I think my take on it is that a lot of FBI agents have learned that this is how you make a career, and that if you can find somebody that you can work with, then you try to build your case, and then that makes you, rise in the ranks. And I think what they've done is more and more they've found people that they think they can manipulate. Oftentimes these are people that have mental problems, or people that have maybe lower IQs or ability to understand cultures, and they manipulate them. And I think in doing that, because these people are such hopeless people to begin with, they really have to go further and try to get the person to actually push the bomb or put the finger there or something. But none of these things would have ever happened if the FBI agent wasn't there pushing these people along the whole way. So I think it's become much more theater now. Before, maybe there was more of an effort to engage ideologically. Now I sense it's more theater.
I think that's a great question. Well, one speculation I have is that, so for you to have at least a plausible material support claim, you need to have a designated group or individual be part of the allegation. And so many of these individuals, if they don't have communication with a designated group or any kind of connection, whether it's a domestic one or foreign, it's going to be very hard to argue material support to terrorism. Who's the terrorist that you're materially supporting? And the government, there's some really great lawyers and there are great agents, and they know, even those who may be ideologically driven by their job, they know that they're not going to win a material support claim if there isn't some designated group that is supposedly benefiting from their activities. And it can't just be, and the Supreme Court made this very clear in the Humanitarian Law Project, is that independent advocacy, you can go on the street corner and chant in favor of a designated group all you want, and you're not going to get prosecuted for that, but that's all you can do. And even that, some people wonder if can you really get away with it. So I think that's one explanation. I think that Steve's response was, there's a lot to be said about the micro incentives of FBI agents, and we're very fortunate to have Mike German here today, a longtime former FBI agent who can add some more insight into how the FBI works, because a lot of this stuff is just somebody trying to get a promotion at the expense of some poor schmuck's life and then the rest of his community's reputation.
The boss informs me that we have time for one question and the answer from one witness, and I'm not going to ask a question. I feel much less apologetic than I did earlier.
I suspect that part of that shift may possibly be because people in the Muslim community had become educated about the sting operations that were going on, so that they weren't able to entrap maybe imams or business leaders, charity leaders as easily anymore, because people were more aware of maybe, and so they're going more on the fringes and finding whoever they can find that have these vulnerabilities. So that's one thought. But Steve, I just want to ask you to describe the Albany resolution briefly.
Oh, yes. Well, the Albany resolution was a resolution, the Inspector General, as I indicated, had recognized that the government was not turning over exculpatory information as required, and that all of these people up there on the board had been prosecuted without the government ever going through the classified information that they had on these people to turn over information which would have indicated that they had not committed the crime. And since we think these are all fake crimes to begin with, contrived, phony crimes, we think if they'd actually turned over the classified information, it would have shown that all of these people were not guilty. So anyway, the city of Albany passed a resolution. What was the date? Do you have the date?
April 5th, 2010, right?
10, yes. In which they urged the federal government to appoint special prosecutors to review the cases, all the prior cases of the preemptive prosecutions, in order to determine whether or not these people received fair trials and got the discovery that they were entitled to, in accordance with what the Inspector General has requested, recommended. And Congress, this was a report to Congress. Congress has not taken up this issue, nor has the Justice Department. And so we are now going to try to put pressure through this Albany resolution. We want to get other cities all around the country to start passing this resolution. If we can get enough cities to pass this resolution, we hope it will either put pressure on the Justice Department to appoint special prosecutors, or we can get through Congress a decision to implement that and appoint special prosecutors.
Well, I want to thank our witnesses for their detailed and career advancement issues you were talking about, because apparently there's this huge mechanism now that needs to reinforce itself, and that's fairly well documented. But one of the ways to combat that is with knowledge and information, and this is what we're building now. And I hope that it's part of a movement that crosses ethnicity, crosses religious background, and that actually creates the possibility for another level of democracy for our children. Because if we don't take this up as an issue to transform this country, the thought of what this country might become with the power it has, if it is not responsive in a democratic fashion, is just too awful to even think about. So, thank you for